Good morning and welcome to the April 8, 2025 regularly scheduled land use meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Gwen Myers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day. We thank you for every applicant who has a project that will come before this board. We thank you for the staff who has worked with these developers for these projects. Lord, I ask that you would bless this meeting and bless this board in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Mr. Grady, want to review any changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. We have no, other than the published withdrawals, continuance, and remands on page 3 through 4 of the agenda. We have no other changes to the agenda.
All right, can we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second, Commissioner Myers, on the change to the agenda. Please record your vote.
Karen Cepeda.
So, yeah, there it goes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, can we have a motion for the consent agenda?
Move consent. Second.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second, Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote on the consent agenda.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right, so if you had an item on the B item on the agenda, your application's been approved. This time, if you are planning on testifying today, would you please stand, raise your right hand so the clerk can swear you in?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Grady, want to introduce the first item?
Commissioners, the first item is agenda item E1. It's PRS application 25-0314. This is a request by Bell Shoals Baptist Church for the facility located on the west side of Bell Shoals Road at the northwest intersection of Burker Road and Bell Shoals and Brandon. Commissioners, the request is to increase the grade level for existing school on the property. It's currently K through 8. The request is to go K through 12. They're also asking to add an additional building to the development located internally within the project. Staff is recommending approval and will be available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good morning.
Commissioners, Rebecca Kurt with Brooks, Rocha, Colby, and Rice at 400 North Tampa Street, Suite 1910. I'm here today on this application for Bell Shoals Academy. We are proud to represent Bell Shoals Baptist Church of Brandon. We have Scott Odom, the executive pastor, and Daniel Padron, head of school for Bell Shoals Academy. This is the location map. You can see that the site is south of Lunston and north of Bloomingdale off of Bell Shoals Road. This is a very small request to a PD that was approved in 2004 for the operation of a 3,500 seat sanctuary and a 1,400 student elementary and middle school and various other related uses on site. The request is to allow the addition of high school classes and an additional building envelope to accommodate a future expansion for the high school. This is the site plan. The site in red is the site of the future proposed high school building. I do want to let you know that there's no increase in the student cap. It's just the addition of the high school students, which actually leads to a decrease in the traffic generation because high school students drive themselves, at least a portion of them. There is no increase in the maximum square footage. Some of the earlier planned buildings were never constructed, and so this will stay beneath the cap of the maximum square footage. And the building site is actually internal to the already approved building, so there should be no effects to the surrounding neighbors. I did have contact with 2 neighbors. One just asked for additional information, and one actually said after I explained the request that she supported the request and that she thought that the addition of high school was a nice addition. We have submitted a queuing plan. There's never been any problems with queuing. It's a very large site, so queuing and parking is all supplied on site, and so there are no off-site bad effects. And staff has found the request approvable, and we respectfully request your approval. I do have with us today some members of the parent board that would be able to speak. However, I'm going to submit a letter they have submitted, and if we need to during rebuttal, they can come up and talk as part of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any proponent testimony? Any opponent testimony? Can we have a motion?
Move for second.
Motion, Commissioner Wilson, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on E1.
Motion carried 6-0.
E2.
Commissioners, next item, agenda item E2, PRS application 25-0418. This is a request by the minor modification of PD by the International Independent Showman's Museum Corporation to modify the existing PD. The PD is approved for a museum associated with the showman's business, and the request is to modify an area to allow as a second option in lieu of covered museum display area, have an enclosed display area to have a outdoor covered display area as part of the facility. Staff is recommending approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning. Bryce Pinson with Half Associates, 1000 North Ashley Drive, here representing the applicant. I have a presentation. Okay. So this is for the Showman's Museum in Riverview. It's off of Riverview Drive, east of Highway 41, 5.65 acres within the urban service area. The surrounding area is mostly vacant, some residential uses. Land to the west and the south is also owned by the applicant. Has a future land use of residential 6 and is currently part of a PD approved for the museum. So the currently approved PD is approved for up to 52,500 square feet of the museum within several different buildings. The only building currently developed is shown as Building A towards the front of Riverview Drive. The request is just to replace buildings B and C with a covered outdoor display area highlighted here in red. Instead of building B and C, there would just be a covered outdoor display area in connection to the museum. And there's no increase in the overall permitted square footage. So with the no increase in square footage and no change in uses, there's no change in trip generation and no increase in trips. And Development Services found the request approvable, so I'm here if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Any proponent testimony? Anyone in opposition? Can we have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote on E2.
Motion carried 6-0.
E3.
Commissioners, next item is agenda item E3. The request is for a minor modification to a planned development located in the Brandon area on north of Bloomingdale, at the northeast of the intersection of Watson Road and Bloomingdale Avenue. It's a request for a modification of a portion of one parcel within the PD to modify the operating hours for a gym that's proposed to be located on the parcel. Currently, based on the review of the conditions, the operating hours are 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. This request would be for the gym to allow for operating hours as 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday and 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. Staff is recommending approval and will be available for any questions. Thank you.
Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning. Michael Caldwell. The address is, excuse me. You read it down. Thank you, Board, for seeing me. Thank you for your time. The address is 5912 Watson Road, Riverview, Florida. Currently, I'm applying for a variance for minor modification to adjust operational hours. Originally, right now, it is from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'm asking for 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. It's not going to have any impact on the traffic patterns. It's to allow for members within the surrounding community to come in and use the facility for health and wellness, massage therapy, and also physical therapy. To accommodate their hours, since most people work at 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, they'd rather come in at 5 a.m. to get their workouts in, or later in the evening after work. Along with that, I will be putting up the 6-foot wall around the north side to prevent any extended noise or lights that could go into the neighboring communities. There already is a Circle K and a IHOP, which is directly in front of the proposed property that is open 24/7.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Or, sir, do you have any other comments?
Do I have any more comments?
Yes.
No, not at this time.
Okay.
Just asking for the variance to be extended hours.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any proponent testimony? Anyone in opposition? Can we have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote on E3.
Cepeda? Motion carried 6-0.
Mr. Grady, F items.
Commissioners, next item is agenda item F1. It's a rezoning application 24-1210. The request is to rezone a 3.15 acre parcel that's located on the south side of US 92, also south of I-4 east of Gallagher Road. In East County, the request is to rezone the parcel, which is split zoning from CG and ASC1 to CG with restrictions. As you'll see on this area, the area on to the left of the blue line is currently zoned CG, and the area to the right of that blue line that bisects the property is currently zoned ASC1. The proposed restrictions include a number of use restrictions and maximum FAR and some setback and addressing some driveway restrictions. You'll see as the staff was not supportive of this, the reasons for our non-support was not necessarily a use issue. We again did not have an issue based on the other restrictions offered with the proposed CG with restrictions. Our concern was that there was identified encroachments along the eastern boundary within the required 20-foot buffer, ostensibly existing home, and also some paved areas south of the existing home, east of the existing structures on the property. Staff had concerns about basically through this process, since it's a standard district with the required buffering and screening of basically with the acknowledgement that from the applicant that they wish to retain those buildings. Staff had a procedural concern with allowing us to proceed with that, with the understanding that they would need future variances for that. Subsequent to the ZHM hearing, the applicant is offering, and they will submit to the record, an additional restriction addressing that issue to basically committing that any areas south of the existing home, they would remove any encroachments within the 20-foot buffer area, but they still want to retain the ability to potentially seek a variance through the LUHO process for the existing home, so as to not have to remove that home to provide required buffering and screening. As part of that restriction, they are also committing that they would not utilize the zoning as justification for the variance. Again, staff was not supportive because of the issues regarding the encroachment, and that remains given the fact that the house, they're still seeking the ability to get a variance for the house. Planning Commission also did not support it for compatibilities and location criteria reasons, and the hearing officer also did not support it for the reasons outlined in the various staff reports. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good evening. Thank you very much. This is Isabel Albert representing the applicant. My address is with 1000 North Ashley Drive, Suite 900. So here's a site in purple. It's located on US 92 in the rural area. It's about 3.15 acres. And if we go a little bit closer, you'll see along this stretch of highway, it's really a mixed use. You'll have some commercial uses as well as single-family residential in the area. So it's definitely a mixed-use environment. The future land use is residential 1 with SMU 6 across the street. And this is why we're here today, is the zoning. The site is split zone. It's commercial general as well as residential. Here's the site that we're talking about. This is Jewel Empire Roofing. They've been in operation for at least 35 years. Mr. Jewel is here with us tonight, and and he purchased the property, started operating, as well as purchase the land next to it, which is where the residential home is right now, where he lives. What's important here is the historical zoning of the site. Since 1970, there was a pocket of highway commercial. Highway commercial is where you'd find those gas station, hotels, and things like that. Our site is in red. And then somehow in the mid-'80s, and I could not find the record because of the date of it, but they rezoned the yellow portion to, non-commercial. But again, it's been, part of it has been commercial. The existing there is what we're doing. The proposal is for commercial general with restrictions. So the restrictions came from numerous reasons. One of them was meeting with FDOT. This is along US 92. They had some concerns with certain uses being there, and therefore we committed to eliminating those uses, as well as eliminating an access on US 92, because there's 2 accesses there. Then in terms of compatibility, we further reduced additional uses that would be deemed incompatible with the area, as well as eliminating certain uses, activities in the rear 125 feet of the property. And then furthermore, as Mr. Grady stated, that we did commit also to provide, to commit that 20-foot buffer south of the house and allow the applicant the right to apply for a variance for the existing home that's there. If not, if denied, we would have to take the house out. Another important point here, this is on US 92. There's an approved PD&E for expansion of this road. This road is going from 2 lanes to a 4-lane. And the area in yellow that you see here is part of the take. So that's going to be taking the house as well. So further in the future, that issue is taken care of. Also unusual is the support, the heavy support from the neighborhood. The residential neighborhood to the east are provided all letters of support, as well as the commercial to the west. Development Services, as you heard, didn't really have an issue with the use, but they had more concerns about the fact that the 20-foot buffer was difficult or was not being met at this time. On the south side of the property, on the south side of the house, these are just pavers that could be removed, and we can meet that there. The only issue and concern is really the house in red that I show here, where we would have to request a variance for. There is a 30 utility easements adjacent to us and the residential property to the east. Planning Commission did not find this consistent with the comprehensive plan. They felt that this would increase development in the rural area, and there's actually not an increase. The property has been in operation for commercial use for over 35 years, so it is not an increase, and it's not introducing a new use. They felt like the surrounding development pattern was mostly residential, and the report failed to state that there's a huge commercial surrounding the area to the west and to the north. They failed to report that there's a 30-foot easement to the east, and the development pattern is a mixed-use development pattern. And they felt like the new development would not be compatible with the neighborhood. This is an existing commercial use. The residential development came afterwards, and they've been living, coexisting together for a long time without any concerns or issues. Planning Commission also stated this area was mostly residential in nature and therefore not compatible with the immediate residential area development. As you saw, this is a mixed-use development in the area. The property owners closest to the east are in support of this application, and then there's approximately 1,000 feet to the south is where the single-family or the mobile home, 400 feet away. They felt that the split zone was in place to preserve the rural area, which is incorrect. This is just a natural progression of the development of how the zoning changed and how the development occurred on site. The commercial location criteria, we requested a waiver to this CLC, and they felt like because the intersection that's supposed to be looked at is further away than what's required in the comprehensive plan. However, there is also a policy that allows the board to look at different circumstances. And the report in the Planning Commission fails to say that this is not only like it's located on US 92, but it's also within a pocket of commercial development. Part of the site is commercial development. and we feel like that should be, a unique circumstances to approve this waiver to commercial location criteria. We feel that the request is compatible with the area with introducing those restrictions, conditions that we provided restrictions. The portion of the site is already zoned commercial general, and it is located within a pocket of commercial general. FDOT is also undergoing the expansion of the road, therefore will take a large portion of the site. There's overwhelming support from the neighborhood, and we feel like it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. Again, the owner is here if you have any questions, and I'm also here if you have any questions, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the Residential 1 future land use category. The site is in the rural area, and the subject property is not located within the limits of a community plan. The future land use element permits new development within the rural area that is similar in character to the existing community. Future land use element policy 4.1 characterizes the rural area as low-density, large lot residential. Expanding the parcel entirely to commercial general zoning would allow commercial uses in the area and increase development in the rural area. Policy 1.4 requires that all new development be compatible with the surrounding area. The proposed rezoning to CG would not be compatible with the surrounding development pattern, which includes existing residential development directly adjacent to the east and south of the subject property. The proposal does not meet the intent of future land use element Objective 16 and its accompanying policies that require new development to be compatible with the existing development pattern. As I mentioned, directly to the east and south, adjacent to the subject property are single-family residential homes. A mobile home park is also adjacent to the subject site to the southwest. The proposed rezoning does not align with the residential character of the surrounding area to the east and presents significant compatibility concerns given the rural area of the nature, which is inconsistent with that policy direction. The subject site is currently zoned CG on the western portion of the property with ASC 1 zoning on the eastern portion. The split zoning reflects the surrounding development pattern as the current CG zoned portion of the subject property is located adjacent to another CG zoned property. The ASC 1 is located on the eastern portion of the site, which abuts planned development zoning and ASC 1 zoning, both areas that contain residential uses. While the proposed conditions on the revised request, restrictions, it should say, may help mitigate some of the impacts of the request, the split zoning was put in place to preserve the rural residential development pattern to the east. Approving the site to fully rezone to commercial general with restrictions would be contrary to the established neighborhood character to the east and inconsistent with the policy direction that modifies this objective. The subject site does not meet commercial locational criteria. The closest qualifying intersection to the site is at US Highway 92, which is a 2-lane arterial roadway, and Moores Lake Road, which is a 2-lane collector roadway to the east. The distance from the subject site and the closest qualifying intersection is roughly 1,300 feet away, as opposed to the required distance of 660 feet, and therefore the site does not meet commercial locational criteria. The 660 feet measurement requirement demonstrates the scale of development that is expected in the rural area, and the proposed rezoning would not be in scale with that. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Zoning Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master reviewed the applicant's request for rezoning to the commercial general restricted zoning district. The property is 3.15 acres in size, currently zoned ASC 1, 2.1 acres of the property, and commercial general, approximately 1.05 acres of the property. And the property is designated residential 1 by the comprehensive plan. The parcel is located within the rural service area. The applicant provided historical zoning information that indicates a portion of the currently zoned ASC 1 parcel was previously zoned highway commercial and changed to an agricultural district around 1985. The applicant's representative testified that the property owner has operated a roofing company on site for over 30 years. Additionally, the property owner lives in a residence on site. The applicant is requesting a rezoning to the commercial general zoning district with restrictions. the proposed restrictions prohibit certain commercial land uses such as drive-throughs, gas sales, car wash, convenience stores, motor vehicle repair, and freestanding emergency room, as well as limit the floor area ratio to 0.25, prohibit commercial development within the rear 150 feet, and require that the existing eastern driveway be eliminated. Development Services Department staff does not support the requested rezoning application. Staff found that while the existing and proposed uses could be compatible with the area, the existing structures on site prevent compliance with required buffering and screening standards found in the Land Development Code. This objection is based solely on the applicant's failure to comply with the required buffering and screening standards. This issue could be addressed through a plan development zoning process, which requires a site plan and site-specific zoning conditions. The zoning hearing master concluded that the proposed rezoning to commercial general restricted is consistent with the development pattern in the area, but it is not consistent with the Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan. And the zoning hearing master concluded with a recommendation of denial.
Okay, Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you. I would just say this is not the first time we've had a unique zoning where it had conflicting historic lines that were drawn. We had one in Waimama recently where it was part of a PD. It kind of overlapped the urban service area. We had to extend it out. More so to the fact that all of the restrictions that were offered and that it seems like this location existed before the homes were established to the east of it, it would seem counterintuitive to not support it. It even, in that last reading, the zoning hearing master found that it actually was in line with the development and growth of the area. So for those reasons, I'll move for approval in light of all of the restrictions that were offered.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Wostel for approval, second by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, I'd just like to say, well, I was going to make the move for approval, but he already did, so that's awesome. So it's already been in commercial use for over 35 years right now, and there is plenty of neighborhood support for this all over, as we could see from the presentation, and so I will definitely support this. Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Please record your vote on F1.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, F2.
The next item is agenda item F2 is rezoning standard 24-1289. Commissioners, this is a request to rezone a 5.12 acre parcel on the north side of Dorman Road, east of Boyette Road in East County. The request is to rezone from AR agricultural rural that has a minimum lot size of 5 acres to AS 0.4, which has a minimum lot size of 2.5 acres. The result of this is, based on the acreage, is allow for 1 additional lot. So currently they can do 1 lot, and under the AS 04 they'll be able to do 2 lots. Based on the surrounding development pattern, staff did find this compatible with the area and has recommended approval. Planning Commission also found it consistent with the plan, and the hearing also recommended approval. And we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Holly Boyer. The address is 17820 Dorman Road, Lithia. And we are just requesting to rezone from the one house per 5 acres to 1 house per 2.5 acres so that we could split it from down the middle from Dorman Road to the back and sell the land, the 2.5 with just the land.
Sounds good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. The subject property is located in the residential 1 future land use category. The site is in the rural area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The future land use element permits new development within the rural area that is similar to the character of the existing community. Objective 4 of the comprehensive plan notes that 20% of the growth in the region will occur within the rural area without the threat of urban or suburban encroachment. Policy 4.1 characterizes the rural area as low-density, large lot residential. The proposed rezoning is compatible with this policy direction. The request also meets the intent of future land use element policy 1.4 with respect to compatibility with the surrounding area. The subject site currently has a single-family use, and single-family uses surround the subject site. Agricultural and vacant lands are to the east, north, and south. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the development pattern along Holly Pine Trail and Dorman Road. The residential 1 category allows for the consideration of farms, ranches, residential uses, rural-scale neighborhood commercial uses, and offices. With the site being over 5 acres in the residential 1 future land use category, up to 5 lots could be considered. 2 lots are being proposed, which is well within the development expected in this category. Therefore, the request is consistent with future land use Objective 7 and Objective 8. The proposal meets the intent of future land use element Objective 16 that requires that new development be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. In this case, the surrounding land uses are comprised mostly of single-family uses, agricultural, and vacant land. Based upon these considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Zoning hearing master.
The zoning hearing master reviewed the proposed rezoning of the subject property, which consists of approximately 5.12 acres at 17820 Dorman Road in Lithia. The applicant proposes to rezone the property from AR to AS.4, and that is intended for the purpose of creating 2 separate development parcels. The zoning hearing master noted that the general area surrounding the subject property consists of residential, single-family, conventional agricultural uses. Adjacent properties include single-family residential uses on approximately 5-acre lots to the north and to the east, single-family residential and agricultural uses on approximately 3.4-acre lots to the south across Dorman Road, and single-family residential and mobile home uses on 1-acre lots to the west across Holly Pine Trail. The Development Services Department staff found the subject property is within the residential 1 future land use category, which allows agricultural and single-family residential uses at 1 unit per acre. And the subject property's size and depth in relation to surrounding uses would create a zoning and development pattern which is consistent with the area. Staff concluded the rezoning request is approvable. Furthermore, Hillsborough County Transportation Review staff stated no objections. The zoning hearing master concluded with a recommendation of approval of the rezoning.
All right, can we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote on F2.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. Our last item.
Commissioners, last item is agenda item I1. This is status report on Live Local Act development projects. Since the last status report, we've had no new applications submitted, so there's no new reports or no changes in the report.
Okay. No news is good news. Okay, so with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.